Okay, hello. Welcome to the First Gen Money YouTube channel where we're doing a wedding series. A bunch of videos leading up to my hour. I need to say hour. I need to start saying hour because I keep saying my day. It is our day. Let's not continue these norms that weddings are just for the bride, because they're not. They're for the couple. I am doing a series of videos leading up to our wedding day. Now we have a date. We have a date, and this is not gonna be the video where I talk about the date. I want you to know that we do have a date and it all feels real. But what we're gonna talk about today is the cost of weddings, also how we're gonna plan on paying for our wedding, and then what you can do to plan to pay for yours, or like how you could prepare today to plan for your wedding. First things first, we have to talk about the cost of weddings. I knew they were expensive before even getting engaged because you just hear about it, right? You hear that it's expensive, get quotes even before you're engaged to kind of get enough feel of what it could cost. So I knew that it was pricey. I mean, a wedding is what you want it to be, right? It could be as expensive as you want it to be. It could be as low cost as you want it to be. It's up to you and the things that you prioritize. A survey from The Knot found that in 2022, the national average cost of a wedding is $30K. That's the national average. If you look at it by different states, they listed a few other states. I'm looking at New Jersey and New York because I'm from New Jersey, I live in New York, so those are the states that matter to me. When you look at the average cost of a wedding in the state where you plan to get married, where you want to get married, it might change. So for New Jersey, the average cost was $51,000. New York, $46,000. That's a jump from $30K national average to $51,46. The Knot saw an increase from 2021 to 2022. And so the average wedding guest count, because I think that's important, is the $30K for 500 people or is it for 10 people? So that's important. So the average wedding guest count was 117 guests. So for 117 guests, $30K on average. We'll get into how I feel about the cost of weddings and how that played into how we're paying for our wedding. But first I wanted to share just some of the numbers that I got from some different places, different venues in New York, in New Jersey. I also looked at upstate New York and Pennsylvania. And I obviously knew that New York City was gonna be a lot more expensive, right? Just some of these prices for a venue, they're just giving you the place you're getting married at. Maybe you don't even get married there. Maybe you just have the reception there. But just for the venue, I got quoted $25K with a bar minimum of $10K. So already I'm at $35K and I haven't even given my guests any food. Another place, the rental fee was $95 on a Saturday, $7K on a Sunday. New Jersey, I found it ranged, right? I got a place far from New York City, probably 2 hours from New York City, that was $195 to $300 per person. And then another place that was down the shore, the venue itself was $25K just to rent the farm. And then it was an additional $225 per person with a minimum of 100 people. So these are just some of the prices that I was getting. I also got the quote from upstate New York, wasn't that much cheaper. The rental of the estate, a big mansion where you would get ready, you have a couple of rooms for people to maybe you and your family stay overnight. But for that, it was $12K. And then additional $139 per person. There was another venue that I loved. It was beautiful. Just the venue was $23K. And then the food and drink, which if you didn't have to pay that $23K for the venue, the food and drink is reasonable. So the food was $55 per person. The drink was $25 per person. Those were just some of the quotes I got, but I got a lot of quotes that I was just I'm not even going to respond. When I got something right away, I was I did appreciate that some prices were cheaper and they listed it out. It's cheaper if you rent on a Sunday versus a Friday or Saturday. And there was one venue that we were going to see. We had two venues that we really liked. The one we ended up putting a deposit on, and then one that we're like, this would be amazing if we could do it here. But it was outside of our budget. But what I realized in that conversation, because we did have a phone call with somebody, we did get a contract. That was like the next step after the phone call, and then we were gonna go see the place. But what I learned in this process is that things are negotiable. We had originally received a PDF of like the prices for a Saturday versus a Sunday or a daytime event. And what I learned is that when you get into the phone and you talk to somebody and you express, what your concerns are, what you want, they're flexible. Especially I found when we're in that same year. It is 2023. I want to get married in 2023. There are not many venues left with dates available, but if there are, those places want to make sure they rent out the space. So what I found in this conversation with this venue was they were open to giving me a Saturday slot, daytime event, because the daytime event was the cheaper price. Daytime event, even though the daytime events were for Friday and Sunday, but they were willing to be flexible like that. And when they presented the contract and I was like, okay, this is outside of our budget, they came back and lowered it. So there are conversations to be had with certain venues, depending on the venue that it is. And so I think, like everything in life, things are negotiable. You can talk about what you want, what the budget is, how you can make something work, right? Is it like, do we need to have this during the day so that we can make the money work? That's one thing that I learned from getting quotes, but also having that one conversation with that one venue that was willing to be flexible and work with us. Moving on to the next point is how we're paying for this wedding. Question of the year, right? Question of the year. So Ari and I had been talking about getting married for a while now. Like, I knew he was my person. There was never any doubt about that. But we never really sat down to say, like, let's start maybe planning for how we're gonna pay for this big expense that might come up the day we actually get married. And I think that has to do with the things that we value. This to say that I feel like, because for us, we never really wanted to spend a lot of money on a wedding. And a lot of money, I guess, is subjective, but because we were like, we don't want to put 51K or 46, whatever the average is for New York, New Jersey. Like, we didn't ever see us putting that much money towards the wedding. We're not gonna spend that. And so that leaves us with having been engaged and no saving account directed for our wedding, which means that now we are going to be paying for our wedding as we go. We are not going into debt for it, but we are kind of directing other savings to be able to pay for what we need to pay for to have this wedding. And what I've learned in conversations with people, in just having a phone call with two venues about what the payment structure looks like, it is spread out, right? So you don't pay for the venue all in full. You pay the deposit, then you pay one payment, then there's another one, then there's another one. Same with the DJ, same with like those bigger expenses. And so that helps us like map out when we're gonna need to have X amount by. Just to share like what we're thinking about in terms of our budget, we are trying to stay at 15K for our entire wedding. Now, we did have a conversation about what happens if, need to go outside of that. Could we be comfortable with 20K? And so we decided that we're gonna try our hardest to keep it under 15K, but if it does get past that, the most that it's gonna go past, or the most that it'll be, is 20K. We are not going past 20K for our wedding, which is a lot of money. Is a lot of money that could have been directed for other savings goals that are going towards the wedding. We know that it's something that we want to have. We're happy if it stays below the national average. And price point where for us and for the number of people we want to have, I think we need to be a little creative of how we're gonna get it done. We're kind of paying for this wedding as we go with the paychecks that come after today. I mean, we've already paid for the deposit and that just came from our checking account. So that's like what we're doing in terms of paying for the wedding. If you are somebody who knows and wants to spend the money and really make your wedding day what you want it to be and not have to worry about a limited budget to work on, then yes, like start saving for the wedding today, even before you're engaged. So I have a friend of mine who started saving for her wedding before she got engaged because she knew that when she would be engaged, she would be in medical school and like wasn't gonna be working. And so she started saving for her big day before she got engaged. And I think that's smart to do. If you know the kind of wedding you wanna have is gonna cost money, then start preparing for that. Start preparing for that. Create a sinking fund for it. Create a sinking fund for your wedding, like any other sinking fund. Sometimes sinking funds are easier to create when you have like a timeline in place. And if you're not engaged or you aren't dating anyone, then like, what is the timeline? Is it indefinite? How long are you saving for it? So just establish a timeline with yourself. Determine how long you want to save whatever amount you are giving yourself to save, 24 months, 36 months, and take that total that you want to have and divide it by the number of months you are trying to save for to get the specific number that you need to save every month towards this wedding sinking fund. I will say before you go into the saving the national average of like 30K, find out how much your ideal wedding might cost. Because your area might be different. Your area might be less than the national average. Your area might be more. So kind of figure out what your local or wherever you want to get married, what that cost might look like. So you have an idea and you're not just like putting a number out in the air like Ari and I initially did when we were talking about getting engaged. We were like, oh yeah, we're gonna spend $10,000 on our wedding. That's it. And now we're like, we're gonna spend 15. Wish us luck as we pay for this wedding in cash as we go. We're gonna do things differently next time. As in, now we're thinking about the next thing we want as a couple and trying to plan ahead for that. So I hope this video was helpful. Let me know down in the comments if you're married, how much was your wedding? I need some tips. What did you DIY? Because we are gonna stretch this 15K. It is gonna go a long way. And I wanna get all of your tips on how to make sure it is the best wedding with the budget that we have. But leave all your tips in the comments and I will see you in the next video of the wedding series.